You swore you'd never do another EV, I said, helpfully reminding him. We've had many conversations about it. To that, Jonathan Ward, the founder, CEO, and head designer of Icon, just smiles. If there's one thing I know about Ward, it's that he's always looking for the next project, the next challenge, so never doesn't necessarily mean never. Even when he's adamant about it at the time, we've been chatting about past and future projects in his office, not just for old time's sake, but as a lead-in to discussing his latest creation, the Icon EV Bronco. Based on Icon's BR series of first-generation Ford Bronco Restomods, it marks the brand's second, and far more ambitious, foray into building an electrified version of a classic. All this won't come cheap, at roughly $450,000 a pop to start. Is it worth the renewed EV effort? We had a go in a prototype version to find out. 7 years ago, Ward and Icon revealed the 1949 electric Mercury Coupe Derelict and 1966 Fiat Giardiniera EV Derelict. Even amongst other high-dollar, one-of-one specials, the Mercury and Fiat stood out for their fully electric drivetrains. They were, to paraphrase Ward, an engineering nightmare. Why the change of heart, then? The advancement of technology. In less than a decade, the suppliers of aftermarket EV powertrain hardware and their wares have improved greatly. Back in 2018, getting the Tesla-sourced battery to play nicely with the Bosch motor via Reinhardt Motion Systems standalone controllers proved to be a massive headache. Managing charging, electric power, steering and brakes, air conditioning, and more from different suppliers required untold hours of R&D. A decidedly modern and out-of-place LCD screen with vintage-aping graphics was the only way to do the gauges in the Mercury. Today, things are different. Bosch now offers an OEM-level full vehicle controller, which made integrating the Icon-specific battery pack, re-engineered Tesla motor, Volvo electric steering rack, Reiger electronically controlled dampers, Dakota gauges, vintage Air AC, electrically boosted Brembo brakes, and more a comparative breeze. Fully up to the minute, the system offers full OBD2 access and monitoring, and even over-the-air software updates and diagnostics. The other thing to know about Ward and his Icons is there's always a tell. No matter how subtle, something gives it away as more than a restoration, even if it takes an expert to spot it. EV Broncos will be offered in both old school and new school design themes, with varying differences from stock that make Icon's Ford Broncos relatively easy to spot. The EV Bronco has its own special tell that gives it away as special, no tailpipe. It's so subtle, even experts will miss it. A tailpipe, of course, can be tucked up under the body for a clean look. You'll only notice it if you stick your head under the truck, and even there it's the only giveaway. The Curry Live axles aren't any different than those on Ford Coyote V8, powered Icon Broncos, and the Driva shafts disappear behind skid plates, so you can't see they aren't connected to a transfer case. Some orange high-voltage cabling was visible on this prototype, but the team is working to fully hide it on production models. This is all by design. Ward doesn't want anyone to know it's an EV until they turn the key. No special badges, no period-incorrect independent suspension or skateboard platform. It should look and drive like every other Icon Bronco, just quieter. And quicker. Back up a minute, no transfer case? That's right, the EV Bronco doesn't need one. Icon decided to reduce weight, complexity, and potential failure points and put the motor where the transfer case used to be, eliminating it along with the engine and transmission. The heavily modified, rewound, and re-geared Tesla motor sends power directly fore and aft from the center differential. With more than 500 horsepower and at least 440 lb-ft of torque available at all RPM, serious rock crawling is handled by software as much as it is mechanically. An off-road mode alters power flow to the motor while a limited-slip rear differential, a full manual ARB locker is available, and ARB locking front differential handle torque distribution and traction. This means the EV Bronco is all-wheel drive all the time. We generally use a two-speed transfer case as the delineator between all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. With no way to disconnect the front axle at the output shaft or differential and no manual locking hubs on the front axle, all four wheels get power all the time. Yes, disconnecting an axle when not needed would probably increase range, but reducing complexity and managing traction were deemed higher priorities. As it stands, Icon estimates the EV Bronco will travel somewhere between 175 to 200 miles on a charge. Power comes from a custom-built 105 kilowatt-hour battery pack running the same lithium-ion chemistry as major automakers such as Volkswagen. Cells are split between front and rear packs, one where the engine and transmission used to be and another where the gas tank used to be. Doing so gives the truck an ideal 50-50 front-rear weight distribution while keeping everything tucked up and away from trail obstacles. Icon says the curb weight increases by about 400 pounds over a similar gas-powered model. Electricity is fed from a CCS plug hidden behind the fuel door, which was its own headache. The prototype plug shown here is temporarily mounted in the cargo area as R&D continues. Icon went through 5 suppliers before it found one with the right combination of size, shape, and cooling to facilitate 100 kilowatts of fast charging, enough to get it from 20% to 80% in under an hour. The size and the shape of the charge port were critical to fitting it behind the factory fuel door, which is the other tell even fewer people will spot. The left rear fender is from a '77 Bronco, which had a larger fuel door than the earlier models Icon uses for its builds. Power also comes from regenerative braking, naturally, which is only offered at one level. Ward decided how he wanted his EV Broncos to feel under braking, and that's what the customer will get. They can turn it off entirely, but there's no adjustments or one-pedal mode. Managing things like the Reagan and Drive modes is handled from an upgraded touchscreen hidden in the standard Icon-designed center console, so it doesn't look out of place either. There are clues inside, though. No transfer case shifters on the floor are one, and the lack of a parking brake pedal is the other. It's electric on EV Broncos. Look closely, and you'll notice the column shifter only has places for park, reverse, neutral, and drive since there are no gears to change. Ward's explicit goal for the EV Bronco was for it to look and drive like every other BR Series Icon truck, except electric. To test this claim, he arranged for me to drive a regular V8 Icon Bronco with a 5-speed manual before letting me at the EV Bronco. Oh, the things we do for our readers. Leaving the rumbling truck behind and dropping the EV in drive, the only differences that matter were immediately obvious. It's quieter and quicker. That is, Ward's team achieved his goal. The EV Bronco rides, handles, and stops like the gas-powered model. The quieter part was easy. Not having a 5.0-liter V8 under the hood makes anything quieter. Much as we enjoy a Coyote exhaust note, the EV Bronco's electric motor does make it a lot easier to carry on a conversation. Icon lines every truck it makes with sound-deadening material, but you can only do so much with vehicles designed before automakers cared about the way aerodynamics affect fuel economy. Wind noise is a given, though Icon has spent many hours working to reduce it with more to come before production trucks are built. The quicker part is less obvious if you only go by the spec sheet. The Coyote crate engines Icon uses are good for 460 horsepower and 420 lb-ft of torque, which isn't all that much less than the electric motor's 500 plus HP and 440 lb-ft, especially in a truck that's 400 pounds heavier and clocks in at 5,420 pounds. Instantaneous torque, though, is a hell of a drug. Set to its least powerful drive mode, the EV Bronco feels appropriately quick for an old truck with some upgrades. In its mid-range mode, it feels modern quick, much like gas-powered Icon Broncos. Unleash all the electrons, though, and it's eye-wideningly, jaw-clenchingly quick. Icon claims 4.9 seconds to 60 miles per hour, and it's the quickest 4.9 seconds we've ever felt. Big body-on-frame trucks were simply never supposed to move like this. Anything this tall with a wheelbase this short is going to be a wild ride when it's overpowered, regardless of what powers it. Throwing in a live front axle makes for torque steer as pronounced as that of a same vintage Mazda Speed 3 or Mini Cooper JCW. Combined with its slow, old truck steering that takes some 30 degrees of input to counter said torque steer, you have a unique experience to be sure. You'd better have quick hands when you get off the accelerator, too, because you need to get all that steering out immediately or you'll be making an unplanned lane change. If you don't find EVs exciting, you will after driving this one. Despite the downsides, I wouldn't give up the EV Bronco's old truck steering. One of the best things about Icon vehicles is the way they drive. The team has mastered the art of enhancing the acceleration, braking, and handling of vintage cars and trucks without losing their essence and making them feel modern. Slow, loose steering is one part of retaining that analog feel. Nor do I find the extra battery weight to be any sort of detriment. New, Icon spec Riger shocks in their default setting. The adjustable settings weren't finished yet on this prototype. Managed the weight so well, I genuinely couldn't detect any difference in ride quality or handling compared to the lighter, gas-powered Bronco. It really does drive like the same truck, just electric. With a new car, I'd be inclined to complain about the EV Bronco's slow fast charging speed, but this is a small, independent shop. More than that, these aren't the kinds of vehicles you take on hours-long, 200-plus-mile road trips. And really, you still could if you wanted to. Time your charging stop with a meal, and it's easy to burn an hour while the battery fills. Otherwise, it'll be full and ready on account of the Level 2 charger in your garage, because let's be honest, if you can afford an Icon, you own a home with a place to charge it. Icon will build an exclusive first run of just 10 EV Broncos to test the market. Buyers can choose either the new or old school style in whatever paint job they desire. Customization and personalization are always on the table for those willing to build on the $450,000 starting price, especially because Ward says there will be no repeats in those first 10. If the demand is there, and the EV Bronco is clearly engineered in a manner that anticipates many more future builds, Icon will do more and could potentially expand the option to its FJ Cruiser and Chevrolet Thrift Master lines.